Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Pro Trade Room Plus for door corable goods, core durable goods. My name is Lee Goldstein, the trading director of 10 Minute Trades. Please remember, I'm not a financial advisor. All the trades we discuss are for educational purposes. Okay, door corable goods. That's a good one. All right, everybody. We're here for durable goods. Durable goods. As It's a legacy report. So what does that mean? It's a report that we've been trading for many, many years. Not the greatest behaving report. It feels like we've been going through a lot of reports that have been very mediocre lately. And then next week is a big, big trading week, big week with lots of good events. I just started looking at the schedule. We've got the biggest earnings. Amazon, Meta, I assume Apple will be next week. I didn't check on Apple's date. We might have some of the early morning Humana, McDonald's possible. I haven't finished going through the schedule, but definitely the big tech earnings are next week. ADP is next week. Jobs report, ISMs, JOLTS. Oh my God, help us please. Consumer confidence with JOLTS should be a super interesting, lots of opportunity, lots of challenges. Next week, one of the busiest weeks of the year, which is interesting because it's the dead of summer, but it's also the dead of earnings season. And we are streaming this morning, so I put a couple of links into the streaming chat. And I'm also going to put a link for our trial, which we've been pushing in the summer. So you can take our 30-day trial. All right, so let's talk about our last event of the day, core durable goods. Let's look at the DMM. Oh my, right, Nitin. I forgot FOMC next week. I don't know if you all watching what took place yesterday at the Fed building was bizarre to say the least. Fascinating. Um, it looked like, I can't say without getting fired what Jerome Powell looked like standing next to Trump. The only thing I could say is it looked like somebody was stabbing him in the heart. The look on his face, and the whole thing was very absurd, to say the least. Um, I'm not going to go on a rant today. I'm not going to talk anything. I'm just going to look. Everyone has their own eyes. See it for what it is. You're not supposed to, the Fed is supposed to be independent. It's the nature of the Fed. Whether you like the Fed, hate the Fed, despise the Fed, whatever. The institution has a method in which it functions, and in times of severe financial crisis, I suppose the Fed has helped prevent meltdowns. Um, that's the general news speak, if you know what I mean. But then there's all the behind the scenes stuff about what the Fed really is and all that. We'll leave that for another time. I have one minor rant, though, before we start. We had Intel earnings yesterday. This isn't a rant. This is what is going on. It's more of a what is going on and more of we all need to really think about what is going on. So Intel, they come up with their news conference, right? Companies release earnings and then they have a conference call. On Intel's conference call, um, they noted it was not like the lead piece of information. They're firing 15,000 workers, something like 15% of their workforce. Um, what was the point of the CHIPS Act, right? The CHIPS, I did a little, it kind of upsets me personally when I see 15,000 people getting fired. They have a new CEO. I'm not going to talk about his compensation package that's worth $69 million. We're not going to talk about that. The CHIPS Act, if you look at the data online, puts $7.6 billion of direct funding for Intel, just for Intel, not for the act, for Intel. Now, I didn't have enough time to read and make sure that everything I was seeing was accurate. So I'm not saying that's definitive, but it is something to look at and think about. The CHIPS Act is our money. It's our tax money. Um, we're giving it to the chip companies to help them develop, build, process, make processors in the U.S. manufacturing. Yet they're laying off 15% of their workforce. They have a new CEO with a $69 million compensation package. Something in this picture may not make sense. I would personally want to do a little more research about the CHIPS Act because it also looked like there was a big story and it didn't look like fake news at all. It was on a not a very well-known news channel about Intel seemingly being disorganized in that they weren't taking CHIPS Act money because the company wasn't functioning well. And I'm not even sure about this. But it was something I ran across right before I got here. All I can say is I don't mind one bit having my tax dollars go to American corporations that then use the money to develop technology, build chips, put up factories in the US. That's all great. But I want to know why they're laying off 15% of the workforce alongside of that. And that's the question. That's the question. 7.6 billion direct funding plus more. That was only the beginning of available money. There were grants and other things, and it all just seems unfair. And I'm not saying life is fair. It isn't. We know it isn't. We know trading is unfair. Many times it is life. No one says life is fair, and if you think it's fair, you're not going to have a good life. You're going to be bitter and angry. You have to accept that it is not fair. Doesn't mean you can't do things great and succeed, but there is inherent unfairness in lots of things. It's the way it is. But do we want to fund it is the question. And where's the oversight? Where is the oversight? Anyway, I want to do a little bit more research on the CHIPS Act and why Intel's laying off all those people in light of all the money they're getting from that government handout. So I just thought it was interesting, and it aggravated me because it was like the first thing I faced when I woke up this morning. Because we were trading Intel yesterday, and it's a $25 stock. It's a company that's, it's a shell of itself. They're not what they used to be, and something's wrong in the picture as far as I'm concerned. That's my rant for this morning. And it's not a rant. It's a what's going on here. All right. What's going on here? Durable goods. All right. We have a new little trap trade that we're going to trade. And it had a fantastic reversal in June. It had a decent reversal in April. It had a nice reversal in March, but we wouldn't have gotten filled because it didn't move enough. And it had a mediocre reversal in May. But the big thing is that on the breakout, you have an 8 bracket, and it's only been moving a few ticks more, like 7 or 8 ticks more than the bracket. So it's not a very good breakout. So we want to try a small trap because of that. So, go into it with your eyes open. It's not a big mover. It is a Friday. It is trading by itself. It seems to me that durable goods is getting a little bit more attention than it has been over the past couple of years. But, historically, looking at the moves, it's not moving all that much, even with the attention. But if you get a big news offset, and what's the definition of a news offset? Very simple. There's a forecast for the news, and then you get the real result. When you compare the result to the forecast, that's the offset. So if they're expecting 5 barrels of oil to be in storage and there's 5,000, that's a large news offset. It's unexpected. So if the news is an anomaly like that, you often get a much better move than if the news is closer to what's expected. That's what causes all of our trades to move, the offset, plus all the other things going on in the markets, tweets, comments, people talking, news, extra news, headlines. All of that is what causes our events to move. But the main reason our events move is the offset. That will never change. There will be times like the markets we're in today where tweets and things like that are affecting the markets as much as the offsets, but it will always go back to the offsets because tweets will end one day and it'll be a different type of government, and it'll be, who knows, maybe it'll go back to the way it used to be, maybe it'll go back to someone else tweeting, you never know. But that's what causes the movement. All right. Could you imagine if the Fed doesn't lower interest rates next week? Now, I was watching some interviews, former Fed officials who absolutely believe in their heart that interest rates should not be lowered in the United States. And they explain why lowering interest rates does not automatically mean less cost for borrowing, that there are all sorts of other things that can take place. It was very interesting. I forget the guy's name, the ex-Fed guy that was being interviewed. Nothing is as simple as it seems, right? Well, I shouldn't say nothing. Some things are as simple as they seem, but many things are not quite as simple as they seem. This was May durable goods. Now, June was GDP. So when durable goods and GDP trade together, durable goods is the offset that moves the market. GDP is the offset, not durable goods. When a news report that's moderate sized trades with a large size impact report, it's the large size impact report that moves the market. And the smaller report might sometimes have an effect, but usually they don't even have that much of an effect. So June, it's not on the DMM because it was, GDP. Calvin, I'm absolutely going to read the book. I'm not saying I want the Fed to exist. I'm not saying the Fed should exist. I need to educate myself more about what the Fed is. What I'm saying is don't destroy every institution. That's what I'm saying. Without having a solution. All right? Destroying institutions and having no solutions. Hey, I like that. That's lyrics. Destroying institutions without good solutions is not recommended. That's what I think. And the Fed is an institution, and if you're going to, put pressure on it, uh, when there's never been pressure on it, it weakens the institution. And I think that there is sometimes some good in institutions. Anyway, that's all not for right now to talk about. We have a million trade rooms to discuss this. I welcome your comments. It's almost impossible to avoid all of this news. This is what affects the markets also. Um, if the Fed is weakened, then the markets don't like that. So you can't ignore everything that goes on. This was May, durable goods. See what I mean about it not being a big spike? Gold on the left, MNQ in the center. It just was not a big move trading by itself. It allowed us, our stop allowed us to survive on the left, and we weren't even trading live on the breakout because it just hasn't been behaving that great. I will trade the trap this morning just because I want to. But on the left there, you could see that what's going to happen is it just missed stopping us out by like a tick. And then it's going to go down. I'm going to use the combine button to create one order with both the positions at one price level, closest to the market current price. That's what the combine button does. And it then allowed us to hit that target. So basically, you just barely got about a target one winner. Not even, almost, not even. So durable, just not a very, hasn't been a very big mover. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a fill. All right, it's possible. It's possible. It missed the first target there by one tick. Look at that. And then, let me let it run for a second. It was 3 minutes after the news already, going on 4. I combined the orders right there and then moved them up a tick, 2 ticks, and it filled. So made more than $100 on the trade managing it. And that is the key. With reports that perform, that are moving poorly, you want to try and manage them in a way that gets you out of the trade with a profit. Sometimes you'll lose money because you don't get enough movement where you can manage it for a profit. It just happens that way. It has, yeah, David, I agree. The markets have been difficult this month. And you call it summer doldrums. My thinking too is there's been a lot of news. There's been more volatility than I think summer doldrums takes into account from, just tweeting and news and Fed comments but the markets have been moving very inconsistently. We've been getting more canceled events than normal. And it definitely, got to remember, we're in the end of July, coming into August. Volume is lower in the markets. A lot of people are away and taking vacations. It does affect the markets in the summer. Let's get our trap trade on. Everybody going to have a fun webinar today. I love the magnet setup. And so at noon, I'll be doing a magnet webinar with Rightline. Then they'll do their iBots, which are really interesting automated strategies. And a lot of interesting stuff out there. I'm just watching for a second. Gold just opened. That's the move you're seeing down on gold. 820 is the gold open. We're going to trigger this trap trade at 829.55. All right. 829, not 29.29, 829.55. our stop. Let's get the DMM out. Here's our DMM. Now, I prefer the trap for this month. We did have a decent spike. You got to go all the way back to May of 2024. That's the last time this trade had a good spike. So that tells you that it's not moving enough. I would probably use a 15 stop. If you decide you want to trade the breakout, I would use a 15 stop, but I'm trading the trap. I'm going to trigger it at 829.55. The stop is 20. Gold's going to test the low right now. It already did the magnet at 720-ish, 25-ish. That was the strong. I think it even did it before. We have to go back and look. Gold rolled today, but the 8 contract has significantly more volume than the 12. There is no October gold contract. Tier 1, 12. Tier 2, 20. Labeled the trade trap GC. All right. Choose an account. I've been using that 19 account for everything. I'm going to keep using that account. That's going to be my magic account to try and get funded. Number 19. So we have our trap, 829.55 trigger. The stop is 20. Tier 1 is 12 ticks. Tier 2 is 20. I don't think Nitin's asking, do I think RTY will move from this report? Nitin, I don't want to make something up. I've never looked at RTY on this report, so I would put a chart up and watch it. I wouldn't just randomly trade it, to be honest. I would look at it once at least. Normally, we look at a report 3 times, 3 months, 3 reports in a row to see if there's any kind of trend. Years ago, we used to do 6. I was not allowed to make any changes on a DMM unless we had 6 months of testing. And we long ago reduced that to 3. 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 reports in a row. That's the minimum I generally like to look at before I'll make a change to an existing setup. I will say this. Sometimes testing is so phenomenal on a very short-term basis that you'll still break the rule and create a new setup. We've done it a million times, and it's worked a million times, and sometimes it doesn't. 829.55 bracket, stop at 20, tiers of 12 and 20. That's our trap. And I'm not trading the NQ, so for David's info, let's put the RTY on there and see if it moves on this report. So MGC 35 is fine, Roz. I would use the same targets, pretty much the same, other than I'd use a bigger stop. I might go with the 12 and 22 on the tiers, use the extra 2 ticks. So the risk always with a trap trade is if you get a monster move, it blows through your stops. We don't see that all that often. It happens occasionally, but we don't see it all that often. I am going to put, I never trade the RTY, but I will put a 1 position reverse continuation on the RTY. Is the RTY $5 a tick or $6 and change per tick? Who's an RTY trader? I haven't traded it in forever. 25 tick stop, 20 tick target, just a scalp. You know, RTY used to be the Russell. $5. RTY used to be the Russell. I used to trade the Russell. I used to be in a trade room with Rob Hoffman, who blew up an account in a trade room that was one of the largest accounts. And I don't know if this is a true fact. I believe he blew up a very big trading account live in a trade room, trading the Russell. It was the IWM back then. He also has a lot of awards winning trading contests. I think he still runs trade rooms today. He had a method that a lot of people spoke out against. It's not dollar cost averaging. Calvin, I know that you were in that. What did they call that type of trading where he keeps adding contracts, especially when he's losing? There's a name for it. It was a $300,000 account, is what you think? Martingale, right. Look up Martingale trading methodology. That's what I believe everyone said he was doing that particular day. I was not in the trade room that day, and it was pretty amazing from what I heard. It's a lot of it. Sometimes it's rumor. You know, you get these trading. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not wives' tales, but they're like not rumors. They're folklore, trading folklore. Stories we've heard, you know, over the years. That's one that never dies. Um, double, double on ads. There's a lot of people that did not believe in that type of trading, that they felt it was unbelievably risky. Um, I'm not going to comment one way or the other. I certainly understand adding contracts if you're losing. Sometimes it will save a losing trade. Obviously, your analysis and the risk you're going to take on the trade has a lot to do with whether or not it's safe or smart to do that. David, I'm reading what you say. I'm not going to repeat it because we're streaming, so I'm not going to comment on that one way or the other because I don't know. Um, I'm just checking out something on my phone. Um, I sold my phone and I still have my broken one, and I'm still using the broken one. I got a new phone and I just still can't tear myself away from this Microsoft foldable phone, even though the one I have is broken. One screen doesn't work. I just so frustrated with my phones, with my phone life. Okay, where our trap is going to come up in 5 seconds. Our orders are going to show up on the chart. Okay, don't be all scrunched up. Spread them apart a little bit. So the news comes out. There's chop. You could see the chop. I think we're going to get filled. The news is mostly good. I'm not dying to get filled long. I'm telling you that right now. I'm not dying to get filled long. Why? Because gold is too negative. It's $31 negative. The news is good. It should push gold down. I'm canceling my lower order because I don't want to be filled long. I'm canceling both my long orders by clicking them. If gold wants to go up in the next 20 seconds and fill me short, I'll trade it. Otherwise, I'm not taking a trade on the trap. That's one great thing about the trap trade. You can cancel an individual side, which you can't do in a breakout. In a breakout trade, you could move the order out of the way, but if you cancel an individual order, it will cancel the whole trade. There is no trade here, folks, so I recommend canceling right now. There is no trade. We gave it more than a minute. You just don't have a move. Core durable goods, which is what we suspected, does not move the markets currently. RTY did not really have much of a move. If you look at the 830 candle, it's moving a tiny bit now. It may just be following its previous trend. RTY does look like it's going to give a new high. Do you want to take that risk of taking a long on the RTY? I'm going to take it for fun because this account, remember this little account that I'm trading in? I'm going to put my stop under the VWAP. If the price goes under the VWAP, it'll stop me out. Otherwise, it could certainly test the high. The RTY is bullish. The durable goods news was somewhat bullish. And this account, I have to get rid of it anyway, so I'll do it a little bit riskier trade. Gold still looks to me like it wants to test the low. All right. It did test it back here an hour ago. Do you want, I did not put on a reverse continue on gold, so I'm not going to trade it. RTY, let's see if we can get partly the way to the high before we leave. Right now, the trade is working a little bit. We have 6 ticks, 7 ticks. Remember, this is a tiny little account. It's a $1,500 profit. And you can't trade a lot of full-size contracts in it. Certainly not full size, because that's one of the limitations of the smaller prop account. You can't trade it large. Gold is, it really looks like it's going to test that low. It's a little bit late to go for it now, okay? There's about 12 ticks there, but what if it doesn't quite get to the low and it changes direction? You're going to be sorry. It already did multiple low tests at 740. That makes the magnet less magnetized. The best magnet is the first magnet for hours and hours, right? That's my favorite magnet, the first one. Or a magnet that hasn't tested a level in many hours. Those are stronger, okay? Those are stronger. And I'm dumbly sitting here as it tests the level. So, you know, just goes to show that magnet was perfect. You have the squeeze giving you good motivation to take the trade, right? The squeeze gave you the motivation to take the trade. It was a good signal. It was a good signal. I'm going to talk about the squeeze today in the magnet webinar. I think that if you're not trading with the squeeze on your charts, then you are missing a very important tool. I think you have to use the squeeze to trade with us because it just adds to the ease of entry. And I recommend it. I recommend it. Now, Donald, I think the squeeze, to my way of thinking, Donald, well, it also, Donald, it depends which squeeze you're looking at. Also, I know Donald's looking at some squeezes are different than the one I'm looking at. My squeeze fired short before the news, just going on the momentum squeeze, My short signal was at 8:21 on a 1 minute squeeze chart. Personally, I do prefer the 30-second chart in most cases for a squeeze. I like the 30-second chart better. But when I see a change in momentum color, that's my signal. I don't wait for the momentum to be on the correct side of the zero level. Okay? Now, our RTY trade is working nicely. I'll leave it alone. We've prevented it from being a loser. So if it decides to go up and test more to the high, I'll be able to trail a little bit more, but I want some more upward movement before I trail. Um, Now, Calvin is saying something interesting in the trade room. So when I first learned trading, and I mean, really, we're talking almost 15 years ago, my favorite trade room, so my RTY got stopped for 6 ticks profit. My favorite trade room that I used to go to before I was a news trader was, and look how it found my stop. It's totally understandable why people think that they personally are being picked on and the market picked just their stop only. It's exactly what it looks like the market just did on my RTY trade. It looks like it went down, found my personal stop, took it, and now it's going back up. um, what Calvin was saying and what I was saying is when I first started trading, and it's got to be 15 years ago, my favorite trade room was Hubert Centers and John Carter. Big squeeze aficionados, if that's the right word. Aficionados. Is it aficionado? I think so. Big squeeze fanatics, let's say it that way. And they sold lots of squeezes. I bought lots of squeezes, went to tons of webinars. Good education from those guys. I always thought they were honorable. I loved their trade rooms. They had a couple of other people in the trade rooms. I'm trying to think what their names were. There was a guy from down south who I liked a lot, and then there was a guy whose son played basketball, Division One for Gonzaga. Come on, help me out, Calvin. Pat. Pat was one of the traders. His son played for Gonzaga. He was a very good trader. He was the only grain trader I'd ever met in those days, and he actually traded some grains back then. His name was Pat. I don't remember his last name. I don't remember the guy from down south that also ran the trade room like when John or Hubert weren't there. Then they went through some BS where they were late and then no one was on time, and I quit, and it changed. It was before simple trading. It was before Carter started all of his new companies and stuff. And it was before they split up. It was before Hubert and John split up. Um, JC was pretty tough to follow. He was a very good scalper. They were tough to follow. Pat and the other guy, I can't remember his name. I used to follow them. But the key is I learned so much from them. But the best and most important thing that I learned from them was the importance of the squeeze, and just how much I love the squeeze. It was TradeStation all the way in those days. That was the platform. People were writing great software for TradeStation. They had Easy Script. What was their language called? Easy Script, I think. And Hubert was the best gold trader I ever saw. He was a phenomenal gold trader, big bond trader. John was more futures, ESYM in those days. And I think John really made more of his money trading options as the years went on. I think he had $1 million trades and options in his trade room. But I always felt they were honest, honorable, normal, regular people that really cared about teaching. And there's always people that don't feel that way. Roz, have a good weekend. But I learned a lot from them. And those were the days I was jumping from trade room to trade room, trying boomerang, the riggers, trying, all the various different trade rooms. Tried so many different trade rooms. And I don't know why I'm going on about this. Our RTY trade is over and we're done for the day. I guess I'm going on about it because um, when you hear what one person did, you realize your expectations and your experience very often is similar. I think people still do it today, are shopping for trade rooms, but it's not so much trade rooms nowadays as it's people on the internet, people with YouTube channels, teaching trading. I think it's much harder to find reliable traders these days because there's a million people out there. I got to shut my door. A million people out there, lying and making up stuff than there are legitimate people. And there's plenty of legitimate people too. But I think it's harder now to find people to learn from. Anyway, Reddit, you have all those, you have all those, the meme stock people. And I was watching, what was his name? Crazy Cat? Was his name Crazy Cat? No, it wasn't. Crazy Kitty, the guy who was trading GameStop, who Robinhood interfered with people's trades and got away with it. At least in my opinion, I think they possibly interfered with people's trades and got away with it. It's just a opinion. I don't know it to be a fact. Robinhood is now a beloved broker, and it really just teaches a lesson that ultimately brokers are not your friend, they are your partner, and they are going to take care of themselves first, always. And these are the things you got to realize. You have no friends, you have partners. You are your own best friend when it comes to trading. And you just have to always remember that. But there's always, look at gold. Gold, look at that trade, that break of the low. Eventually, what's going to happen here with gold, there's going to be a good long on gold. It's going to have a good long trade. I'm just looking to see if there's really anything in the news that's causing this move down. I'm not really seeing much. Not really seeing much. Look at here may be the change in direction on gold. It's a little bit harder to take a long in gold. It's down $33 and your stop needs to be below the low. So it's a lot of risk. Normally, you don't get this big wick on a gold change in direction, right? You don't get that big wick. So, yes, there's probably a long in gold right now, but it's much riskier and it's already, look at the size of that candle. You got to be really careful. Anyway, anybody have any questions? So we made a tiny bit of money on our RTY. Durable goods didn't much move. Um, Everybody's welcome to join our magnet webinar at noon today. Otherwise, if you're not a member and you're watching on YouTube, there's a link to join. Next week is one of the busiest weeks of the year with fantastic opportunities for some great trades. So it's a good time to join. Anybody have any questions? If not, I'll see everybody next week. And maybe we'll do a little bit more research into the CHIPS Act and find out if it's fair for Intel to be laying off 15,000 workers when they're getting all that CHIPS Act money. And they have a new CEO with potentially a $69 million compensation package. Is that what the CHIPS Act is for? That's what needs to be looked into. Okay, everybody. 350 end of the day trade. Today is the last trading day of the month. Um, Calvin, put it in the correct language? Calvin, put it in the correct language. If you're trading the end of the day, today is it just the last trading day of the month? That's a good month. Okay, Mandinga, I will look. I will look. Mandinga, what you could ask me the question here. When you say connection, can you be more specific? Can you be more specific? What do you mean by connection? Yeah, last Friday of the month. Just is often a good, not always, but often can be a good end of the day trade at 350. All right. All right. I'll definitely check my email, Mandinga. I'll definitely check the email in a few minutes. So whatever it is, I'll figure it out. Okay. Everybody on YouTube. Okay. I'll definitely check that. No problem. I'll do it right after I leave here. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see everybody. Maybe, I don't know if we're here Monday or not, but I'll see you next week. Ending the stream, hit the like button on the YouTube stream and hit the bell because on YouTube, I'm not going to send emails that we're streaming. It's just not the way the technology is supposed to work. If you click the notification bell, that's how you'll know when we're streaming. So you want to join the channel and click the notification bell. That's the way to do it. All right? See everybody next week.